Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's ARSA Roundtable. On behalf of the Arizona Rural Schools Association, thank you for joining us. We know your calendars are very full, so I'm very grateful that you took a moment out of your day to join us as we connect with colleagues across Arizona. Today's conversation is especially meaningful as we welcome a leader whose work reflects dedication, collaboration, and an unwavering belief in public education. So please help me welcome Superintendent David Verdugo. He was recently named the Arizona School Administrators State Superintendent of the Year. Superintendent Verdugo has served as the 8th superintendent of Santa Cruz Valley Unified School District since May of 2014. He brings more than 30 years of experience in public education, including roles as a teacher, coach, principal, and district leader. Under his leadership, the district and its schools have earned both state and national recognition. He is widely respected for his steady presence, collaborative approach, and deep commitment to his students, staff, and community partnerships. Superintendent Verdugo, congratulations again on this well-deserved honor, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. I'm going to start today with asking you about leadership and vision. So, as ASA's State Superintendent of the Year, what core leadership practices do you believe have made the greatest impact in your district?
Well, first I want to say thank you for having me here and allowing me to share some of my experience and things. And I'm very humbled and honored to be selected as the ASA Superintendent of the Year. It was something that was not expected, and that introduction makes me sound a lot better than I really am. So, but thank you for sharing that. The thing about, especially being in a rural setting, I grew up in a small town, so I'm very accustomed to being in a community. I went to high school in an urban area, but still kind of suburban area. And then as I grew in my profession, spent most of my time in an urban area, and then as an administrator, moved to a rural area, which I've been here now almost 20 years, which is amazing to be in one location for so long. But the things that I've been really fortunate to be able to do as a leader here in our community is hire the right people, which is very hard to do in a rural setting. And, being, especially for us as a school district, we're 10 miles from the Mexican border. And so people always have for whatever reason, even though we are one of the safest communities, if you look at data and statistics, we were one of the safest communities, but everybody that, especially like when I was just at the national conference, people say, where's your school located? And I say, 10 miles from the border. And they're like, oh my gosh, it must be crazy there. I'm like, no, it's very, just calm. We got great people that live here, a very solid community, but getting and attracting people to be here as a leader has been one of my greatest challenges, but also one of my greatest successes, because we, for instance, at our high schools and our middle school and elementaries, all of our principals are graduates from our high school now, which is amazing to have that happen. To have them go through the system, become teachers, become assistant principals, and now principals. That has been something that we're just very happy to have. But they've all done outstanding jobs of leading their campuses, and so we're very fortunate to have that. But those are some of the things that I believe really, for me, just hiring the right people and getting the right people to be part of our team.
No, I think that's wonderful. And I know recruitment and retention hits all districts, but it hits rural in a very different way. And being able to grow and maintain is probably the best rural way. So I applaud you for that. How do you balance being a visionary leader with managing the day-to-day operations that are demanded of you in your district?
Well, I think again, going back to being in a rural community, we are the center of the community, no matter, especially for an area like ours that's unincorporated. We're close to Nogales, which is a city that itself has city governments, but being in a rural area a little bit away from that, we are unincorporated, so we answer to the county, and so we don't have a lot of city amenities and things like that. So being visionary for our district, what that means is trying to be everything for everyone in our community. I joke a lot of times about when I first started being superintendent here in our district, I was well known from being a principal in the area, and when the garbage didn't get picked up, I got a call and said, "Hey, the garbage isn't picked up." I'm like, "Well, what does that have to do with me as superintendent?" And they're like, "Well, we know that you're going to find the right person to make sure that the garbage gets picked up." And so that's the interesting thing about being in a rural area, is that you are the center of whatever is happening in your community. And so we're very fortunate to have a lot, like I said, a lot of great people, but managing the day to day is probably more difficult, I believe, in a rural setting than it is, because you have so many different things that you're responsible for. Not only the academic achievement, but now, for instance, at all of our schools, we have telehealth. So those are things to keep students in campus, so that they can go to the nurse's office and have a doctor's appointment, for attendance reasons, and also because a lot of them won't go to the doctor. So being able to have that on campus has been a positive. But again, just really trying to be, and not settle. I mean, that's the other thing. I have a great instructional team, that going back to that first question, we just don't settle. I mean, whatever we're trying to do, we try to be the best that we can be. And so, for instance, we are now standards-based grading in all from K-12. We're personalized learning K-12. So that was a big lift for our school district, but it's something that we knew was important for our students. We also have a very robust CT program. Our dual enrollment, we now have 17 teachers at our high school that are dual enrollment certified, and our goal is to have 60% of our students graduate with an associate's degree along with their high school degree by 2029. And so that's something that we're working really hard towards. But again, just in the rural community, I don't think there is any way to truly be balanced. I think you just, wherever you're at, you have to be present and be fully present in whatever you're doing.
No, and I'm going to have a couple of follow-up questions.
Sure.
One of the questions I should have asked earlier, but for those on the call, can you give us context about your district? How large it is? How large is the community? How much staff do you oversee?
Yeah. So our district, we are right close to 4,000 students, about 3,800. We've declined a little bit, just like everybody, I think, with low birth rates in the last few years. But our high school is right around 1,400 students. We have 6 schools, which the 3 elementary, one is a K-8, 2 middle, and then high school. And then on our high school, we also have an alternative campus within the high school. So 6 total. Oversee about 500 employees. We are the 3rd largest employer in our county. So that's something that, again, brings a lot of responsibility. Our community itself, Rio Rico, Tubac, which is, we're about 250 square miles. And we have approximately about 23,000 people that live in our community. And then neighboring Nogales has about another 21,000. So in the whole area because we do have a lot of students that come from Nogales as well, is about 40,000 people, a little over 40,000.
Okay, wonderful. And then my other follow-up question was just about, you said that you switched to the standards-based grading.
Yes.
And I wanted to ask for any other leaders on the call who are in traditional grading, but interested in switching to standards-based grading. How did that transition occur, and how did you lead through that transition?
Yeah, it's been about 4 years since we started that transition. We started in the lower grades and then moved into the high school. The high school is now in year 2 of it. They still have some letter grades that equate to what they are on the standards-based side of it, just because of GPA, college, and still likes to have those letter grades and what does that truly mean. But our biggest movement and reason for it is because we needed our students to be continuous learners. And so we wanted them to be successful beyond high school and beyond taking a test. And so standards based for us was an important piece of that, because no longer can our students just game the system. Because we've had a 94% graduation rate. We have one of the highest graduation rates across the state, especially for our population. We are over 90% trend reduced. We also have 97% Hispanic. 90% of our students come in speaking Spanish as their first language. So it's something that for us, we needed to find something. And again, like I said, we always try to continue to move forward and try to improve constantly. And so providing those students with ability to learn and not game the system, because sometimes that extra credit or other things that students were, but now to actually get a 4 in our system, they have to be able to demonstrate that learning and actually almost teach it to somebody. And so the most difficult was our AP and dual enrollment type students, because they were so used to just taking a test and doing well. And now when they had to actually demonstrate the learning, and it was very difficult for them. They didn't like it at first, but now they've really become accustomed to it and are able to share what they've learned and really work towards that 4.
Wonderful. Thank you. What personal habits or routines help you stay grounded and focused as a superintendent?
Like I said before, the wherever you're at, be present, because I think the myth of work-life balance, especially as a superintendent, you're on 24/7. It's almost impossible to have that work-life balance. But when I'm home, I'm home. That's what I tell, and I will set time to check emails and things, and I try not to do it at least 2 hours before bedtime, because then sometimes I'll get frustrated or go down a rabbit hole of what's happening at that time of night. But exercising, doing things like that. But also the thing that really grounds me is visiting our school sites and visiting with students. Because to me, that's why we got in the profession in the first place. And when you're in the district office, sometimes you're dealing with adults only and not necessarily dealing with the students. So I love to get on campus and try to do that weekly, getting on campus in every school site if I can. We also schedule monthly lunches with a group of students, just so that I can see how things are going, check in with them, which has been great. And I'll invite board members to come along with me. And so we'll visit the campus for an hour, and then have lunch with a group of students. And I try to have them pick them at random, just because I don't want a certain group of students. I want to hear from every student. So it's been great to do that over the last few years. It's really helped me stay grounded with our community and with our students.
I think that is a fabulous idea. So rural districts, you've mentioned this a few times, they bring unique opportunities and challenges. So what do you see as the greatest strengths of rural school districts, and how can superintendents leverage those strengths?
For us, I think that one of the greatest strengths is still that our parents believe in education. I think that's one of the reasons we have such a high graduation rate. So they believe in what education can do for their child and their families. Our biggest challenge, though, is what do we do after they graduate from high school? So that's one of the reasons that we've really pursued the dual enrollment, but leveraging that and continue to get our parents involved. And sometimes because of our Hispanic culture, it's almost been there's a lot of apathy because they trust educators so much. And so that getting them to have advocacy and agency for what they're doing has been a challenge for us as well. Again, because they trust us so much. And so really getting out in the community, meeting with them, talking and seeing what their needs. We just redeveloped our strategic plan for the next 5 years, and we really had a lot of community involvement. a lot of parents, students, staff of what we really want our district to be, and what do we want our graduates to be able to do. So leveraging those parents and those families that really believe in what we're doing has been important for us. And then also, I would be remiss if I didn't share, we've been able to pass our bond and override because of that trust. But also because, like I mentioned before, we're unincorporated. So there are not a lot of amenities here. So one of our things that we did with our bond was build a swimming pool, an aquatic center. We built a fine arts center, because we're close to Tubec, but for art shows and other things that in our fine arts center, but also our swimming pool. This last summer, we had almost 600 students learn how to swim, which was incredible in our first summer of opening our pool. So just having those things and really being the center of the community, and leveraging that to continue to have that partnership with our families.
I think that is wonderful. I know that there's a lot of shared use spaces in rural communities, and it sounds like you're really leveraging that to benefit everyone in the community. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Next, how have you built and sustained strong relationships with families and community partners in the Santa Cruz Valley?
Yeah, really being involved in everything that I possibly can from the superintendent standpoint of going out and visiting with families. We invite them in, like I mentioned before, attending all the activities. I think that's one of the biggest things that I would say as superintendent is being visible in a rural setting, and building that trust with those families and whether it be going to the football games, basketball games, those type of things, but attending all the other activities within our community. And being in a rural setting, it's a blessing and a curse at times because everybody knows you, and the curse is everybody knows you. So whether you go to the grocery store or anything like that, that it's you're going to get questions, you're going to talk to people, and which is great. But it's that relationship building that has really helped, again, build trust within our district. And then also all of the different, like Rotary and things like that, being involved with those groups has really helped as well, providing scholarships for our students. But they wouldn't do it if we weren't out there supporting them as well and being part of what they're doing to serve the community.
When you did your strategic planning, you said you just recently did that.
Yeah.
And I know your goal of having 60% of your students achieve the associates, right? The dual
Yes.
enrollment classes before they graduate. Were you involving the community partners? Is this what the businesses and the industry in the area is looking for?
Yes, and that's the other thing is we have limited industry here. We do have the maquiladoras across the line, which is a lot of engineering and things of that nature. But locally, it's a lot of produce, and we do have a mine that is actually being built right now and should be opening soon. And leveraging that partnership, for instance, we also don't have a full community college, which has been very difficult in some ways. We have a provisional college, which is one of I believe the only provisional college in the United States. And it's been difficult in that standpoint to have that dual enrollment. So we partner with Pima Community College, which is in Tucson, and they've been a great partner. But being able to do that in our strategic plan, we went out and we talked to all kinds of different people. But yes, leveraging the local businesses as much as we can. Because we also are trying to incorporate more of our instructional time model, allowing internships and some of those internships to count with our students. And so that has been a challenge, which is a rural thing, I believe. Some rural areas, Yuma, I guess would be considered, although they're a large rural area, has a great partnership with Arizona Western. And so we've tried to model some of that. With their students being able to access higher ed. And so that's something that we're continuing to do, but also trying to find industry, because industry for us is produce, and a lot of our families work in produce. A lot of our families work in law enforcement. We have, our every hire from our local sheriff's department over the last 5 years has been from our um, law enforcement class, our CTE program, which has been great. So just trying to get those relationships and avenues for our students beyond high school as well.
Okay. And can you explain what a provisional college is? You said it might be the only one. So
Yes. Yeah. So they are a accredited community college, but they have to partner with a another provision or another full accredited college to be allowed to provide courses. And so there has been uh, there's legislation that we've tried to pass numerous times, but other community colleges and junior colleges fight against it because of the full-time equivalency needed to become a full accredited college. So they only offer limited amount, and they also again have to partner with Pima Community College to be able to take those. So you're technically taking a Pima Community College, even though it's a Santa Cruz provisional college.
wonderful. Thank you for explaining that. Um, as you mentioned before, recruitment and retention still remain top priorities across the state, especially in rural communities. So, what strategies have been effective in your recruitment and retention strategies?
I would say one of the best things that our board has done is support retirees. You know, because it's hard to get new individuals, especially rural. But when we have people that can retire, what our board has allowed them to do is retire and come back where they left off instead of going back to, which many districts do, to 10 years of experience. The people that retire in our district actually, if they're somebody we want to retain, can come back right where they left off and receive their retirement. So they still have to go to that third party for that year one, but still receive the same salary that they left with. And so that's actually retained quite a few of our veteran teachers that have been able to come back. But the other things that we're trying to do is pathway programs. And we actually created a position this last year because we had so many long-term subs. And so we created a position that is assisting long-term substitutes and finding a pathway to become certified teachers if they are a quality person that we want to move in that direction. And they observe them, they help them with lesson plans and do all those type of things. And being in a rural setting, you're going to have a lot of occasional long-term subs just because there's a need to fill positions. I mean, there's a teacher shortage everywhere, but especially in the rural communities. So really trying to do that. Salary and benefits, we always put our teachers and staff first. That's one of the things that we continue to do. Our insurance, we very minimal cost to our employees, if at all. Those are just a lot of benefits, things of that nature. We also shifted when I became superintendent from meet and confer to interest-based bargaining. And so everybody is represented from administration, classified staff. So everybody takes part in that, and then they develop what our goals are for retention and recruitment. And then we share that out without the district. So that part I think has been very positive as well, where everybody has a voice within the team.
I love that. That's great. Um, so you've mentioned too about growing your own leaders. So empowering leaders across your system is very important. How do you empower the principals and other leadership positions while still maintaining that strong district alignment and accountability?
Um, you know, with our strategic plan that we just developed, all of our principals were involved with that as well. But really, I think having our principals that have come through the system, they've been part of it. And so, one, allowing them to grow and make their own decisions, and and we support that, but also providing that support when they make the wrong decision. I think that I was very fortunate to have support all the way back to when I was a teacher that way. And so being able to help them, guide them. We're again, that's the blessing and curse of being a small district. You can get involved with everything, but then it also allows you almost sometimes feel like you're micromanaging because you're involved in everything, but being able to let them make their own decisions and guide their own school sites. And we have, our IEP, that we are required to do from Title I. We work really extensively and not just put it as a binder on the shelf. We actually meet quarterly with them to say, okay, how are your goals going? And then we also meet as an entire admin team every Friday to discuss how things are going and needs of each site, just to check in. And so those are our things that we provide freedom, but also that support for them when they need it.
Very nice. So during your challenging moments, leadership transparency becomes very critical. So what role does transparency play in your leadership, especially during the most challenging and difficult times?
Well, I think that's why it's important to share your story, because if you don't share your story, somebody's going to come up with and make up a story. And so for me, really trying to get out again to all the community groups and we have a communication specialist, which for a smaller district is surprising to many, but it's something that we found necessary to, again, get that story out of what we're doing, and be as transparent as possible with, we annually do presentations about what our budget's going to be to the community, and our tax rates, because that's one of the things that everybody wants to know. How much am I going to be paying for, especially in a rural community? What is this bond and override costing me? And we've been very fortunate to be very fiscally responsible and transparent with what we're doing. And so I think that's why we've been able to pass our bond and override, to continue to get that support. But being very transparent, the pandemic was one of those things, being transparent of what we're doing, sharing daily, whether it be at that point, we were sharing weekly videos of what we're doing. We have our newsletter and things that we share out. But again, sharing as much information as you can, because if you're not sharing your story, then they're going to make up something. And so we want to make sure that we share the positive things that are happening. And if there's things that we're struggling with, we also want to share that as well, to get assistance from the community on how we can improve and get better.
Excellent. So at the center of everything we do is student success. Can you share an initiative under your leadership that significantly improved student outcomes and what made it successful?
Yeah, I think when I think of that question, the dual enrollment comes to mind, but also we were the national AP School District of the Year in 2018. And that was something that AP programs traditionally have limited who could take AP classes in some settings, and then also limited who can take the test, whether it be a financial reason that they don't take the assessment. So when I became superintendent, I said, we've got to change something. We need more students taking those rigorous classes. And so we opened it up to any student that wanted to take it. There was no criteria for them to get in. And then the second thing that we did was that we would pay for every assessment for AP. So every student, not only that had the opportunity to take the class, but then they were required to take the test. And teachers at the time were upset because they're like, well, they're not ready to take this test. And so because our scores always looked great, but you only had like half of the class taking the test. So they thought it was going to be a big drop, and it actually was the opposite. We saw an increase in not only the number of students taking the test, but the number of students passing the test. And so I think it was because it put pressure on the teachers as well to say, hey, these students are going to take the test, I got to teach to everybody, not just that small group that I know is going to pass the test. And so we were very proud to be the 2018 National AP School District of the Year. In the same year, we were actually the National Cambridge School District of the Year, because we had some of our students that were top of the world on Cambridge, especially in I think physics. We had one student that had the highest score in the entire um, Cambridge world. So we've had some student success, but again, it's really providing that rigor for them and giving them the opportunity and support to be successful in the classroom.
I think that's great. Well, and I am curious about your dual enrollment. What percentage of students are taking those classes and what percentage are getting associate's degrees at this time?
So right now we've had our 4 students that have been through the whole associates program, but again we're in year 2 of it. So these students were already doing a lot of work in that area, but we are up to about 40% of our students taking at least one dual enrollment class, and hopefully looking at our rollover and students getting ready for next year, we'll be up to 60% of our students taking dual enrollment classes next year. One of the things that we also did to prepare the students for that was push down pathways in the middle school. So now we have a Spanish 1, Spanish 2 high school level in the middle school. We have algebra, geometry, world history, and then English, high school English in the middle school as well, so that our students, when they get to high school, will have those options. Not only will they have CTE options, but they'll also have the dual enrollment options.
Very nice. What are you doing for the students who have pathways that aren't necessarily leading them on to college or dual enrollment after high school?
Yeah, and so that's our a very robust CTE program. So we're very fortunate to have we're part of the PIMA JTED, but also we have I think it's 11 programs that are on campus, from law enforcement, culinary, engineering. The biggest one that we have ROTC, is our ag science. It's one of our largest. We have a farm. You know, if you want to talk about being a rural area, we actually have a farm with, we have a chicken ranch, we have a tilapia farm, we have 2 greenhouses that produce about 8 tons of tomatoes annually, and our chicken farm produces about 80 dozen eggs a week, and the majority of those go to the food bank. We have partnerships, and then we have sheep, goats, cattle on our campus as well. I mean, so a lot of livestock there. We also have, they're actually retired now, but we had 2 Great Pyrenees dogs that were part of kind of a satellite vet science, but they also took care of our chickens, so which was very cool to have them on the farm. So we're trying to provide, if they're not moving in that college area, we want them to have a certification, and so that's where we believe 60% will probably be in that college going, and then the other 40% will hopefully have some type of certification, because we want 100% of them to be able to go into whatever avenue they want to move into. We want to be able to provide that opportunity for them.
And for your CTE programs, is the district paying for any assessments that are required, like the dual enrollment?
Yes. So that's one of the things that I probably should have mentioned during our the question about retaining staff. We also do not allow staff to buy their own supplies. We don't allow students to buy supplies. Our district sets aside funding so that, which I know is difficult at a time, but we provide all supplies for all students. We don't send a list home any longer and saying, hey, we want you to bring these in. We provide all the supplies, and we provide all the supplies for teachers. Now, do they want to buy something special? They can do that, but we say that, for all regular teaching supplies, we provide that, because we know how many teachers out of pocket go buy supplies. The last I think 6 years, we've really worked hard to provide all the supplies for teachers. We're also one-to-one district, so and then also for families that don't have access to internet, we provide hotspots for them. So I think currently we have close to 300 of our families that are using our hotspots. So we're trying to eliminate any access issues, especially being in a rural community.
Very nice. So how do you encourage innovation in your district while still maintaining the stability and consistency you need across the district?
I'm very fortunate to have a teaching learning assessment office group of team that really keeps me on my toes as far as academic achievement and what are we doing to continue to push the envelope and improve. And so they're always looking at ways to be innovative and supporting our instructional coaches and but still allowing teachers to try things. I think that's one of the things that we've redeveloped our evaluation tool to really focus on growth and allowing teachers to try things, especially with personalized learning and standards-based grading. It really lends itself to that, to really try to reach your students in different modalities and not just do one thing, although we do have consistent curriculum. Within that, teachers are allowed to try to do different things. I know that there's a lot of people that utilize beyond textbooks, and so similar. We don't use it, but we have a very similar process of allowing our teachers to put lesson plans into a bank, also assessments and other things into a bank that goes across our district, so that if they're having a lesson that at one elementary and that they thought worked really well, then it goes to our teaching learning assessment office. They vet it, and then they share it with the rest of our elementaries. So we have, again, trying to allow our teachers to innovate, but also support them if they are struggling as well.
Very nice. Do you have alignment then for professional development? Do the schools come
Yes.
together? Grade
Yes.
levels? Okay.
Yes, we have early release Wednesdays, which are more site based, but we also have what we call for elementaries, it's a tri-site where all three elementaries get together and their grade levels work together. And then we also have some vertical articulation days where like 3 grade spans we'll get together from each of the sites. And then every beginning of the summer, right after the summer ends, we call it our Leadership Academy, which we have all the team leaders from across the district, all the teachers, few from each grade level come together and reevaluate what we did the previous year, and then what do we want to do for the next year.
What practices, I'm sorry. So we're going to move on to governance and the superintendent role. So what practices have helped you build and maintain a strong, productive relationship with your governing board? And you've been there for a long time, so there has been changes over the years as well, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Wyman helped me out with this one. So when I first became superintendent, he shared with me his handbook for board members and superintendents, and so a lot of that was implemented when I first started. And I've had some board change. So there are no board members on my current board that hired me 12 years ago. So there has been change, but educating them on what it means to be a board member and how we continue to work together, communicating with them, and again, going back to transparency, being transparent with them, and then really working with them to understand what their role is and what my role is. And I constantly tell them, I'm your only employee. When somebody comes and talks to you in the grocery store, because again, we're a rural community, and they're going to complain about something or tell you about something, say thank you, and that you'll share it with the superintendent, and then we'll go from there. So really trying to educate them on what their role is as a board member, and that they're my boss, not the boss of all the teachers and so on. And sometimes it was a challenge for some, but now on my board I have 3 that of our board members were former teachers, and when I was and during the time that I've been superintendent, one was my admin assistant so she went from being my admin assistant to now being my boss, which is very interesting. But she represents a lot of the classified individuals in the community because she understood what they do and is able to provide that voice for them. And then we have one of my board members is the fire chief of our area. So he understands what it's like to have a board. And so really trying to have that communication as much as possible and really educating them that their voice is for their constituents and providing that support for our district, but also guiding me in what they want to be implemented and not really getting involved in the day-to-day operations, which at the beginning, especially with this newer board that were teachers, they wanted to get involved because they still have friends as teachers. And so they really want to get involved with that and trying to get them to pull back and say, that's not your role. Has really been initially a challenge, but now they're doing a great job at that and really bringing things to me versus trying to solve the problem themselves.
And what would your recommendation be for superintendents and their board communications, I guess? What would you recommend for frequency, types of information included, and just any advice in that area?
Yeah, I really try to give them, again, just they're going to create their own story if you don't give it to them. So I tried to give them as much information that they need to know, whether it be different things that I know they're going to hear from somebody, and I want them to hear the correct thing. So sharing that, and usually on a weekly basis, I will just send them a brief update of this is kind of what's going on this week. This is what happened. And then before every board meeting, I will call each one of them individually, which is a lot of work at times, but I call each of them individually and say, do you have any questions about the agenda? That way I don't want, we have no surprises, and so if they have questions that they can ask me and I can answer at that point, or say, okay, you can ask that during the board meeting. And now I know you're going to ask it, and we can have that conversation because they want the public to know that they're asking that question, which is fine as well. And so really having that communication, but I don't do it. I know some people do it on a daily basis. I don't think that's, for me, it doesn't work. I know for others it works, but on a weekly basis, sharing information with them. And then right before board meetings, sharing the agenda and making sure that I can answer any questions that they have.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So beyond the district, a lot of superintendents also advocate at the state level. So how do you approach advocacy at the state level, and what role should superintendents play in shaping education policy?
I think, it's essential for us to have a voice. And I always thank Dr. Wyman for that. I know he's been a great voice for superintendents. I know I see Dr. Ty is on here, from ASA. I think being part of those groups has been an important piece for me in my professional growth, but also allowing me to make sure I connect with my local constituents and local legislators, and what do my constituents want to see in education, and then sharing that with the local legislators, and then move that to the state level and being able to have those connections. I'm on a few boards, which allows me to find out what's going on, not only locally, statewide, but nationally, of what's happening. But really for us to continue to have the voice, because I believe we're the professionals and we know what is best for our communities. But being able to share that and educate legislators is important as well. Again, like I said, we have to share our story. We have to continue to share what we're doing and what is happening positive in education, what is happening positive in public education. I think it was last year I was able to testify in the Joint Education Committee of what's happening, and they were very interested in our dual enrollment and things of that nature. and just sharing, those things, again, the positive things that we're doing, and really trying to shape policy and how we can do what's best for our kids. Because if we don't do it, no one is going to do it. And so I think we have a voice, but we need to continue to grow that voice and make sure that we're supporting each other and keep communicating with our legislators as much as possible.
I am curious, have you had to try to build a relationship with any legislators that are really um, challenging to deal with for your role in the superintendent? And if so, how did you navigate that pathway?
Where we're located, we actually have some very education-friendly legislators. And so that part is not locally have not done that, but like last year when I was asked to testify at the joint committee, was sharing, what we're doing, and I could see that there was already an angst against public education for whatever reason, just because I don't think they know. Again, coming from the location that we're at, people tend to believe that when you're 97% Hispanic and you're 90% free and reduced, that you're not going to be successful. And so when we have a 94% graduation rate, they're like, well, how is that possible? Is it, are you the rigor not as strong? And then I say, well, look at our 2018 AP School District of the Year and what we're doing with dual enrollment. So again, sharing those things that and then being positive, because I think trying to educate them on the good things is very challenging, because they all have their own idea of what public school education is, because they all went to school, and so they think they know more than what we do as professionals. And so really trying to continue to advocate, but in a positive way, and highlight the positive things that are happening, to me has been a positive thing and essential for us to continue to navigate that, because I think there's such a negative, and all they see is us trying to ask for more money, and those type of negative things that they continue to push, versus what are we doing with that money, and how are we being successful with the limited funds that we do receive, and how are we educating our students at the level we're able to educate them, even with low funding.
Thank you. Um, I hope you are willing to share an insightful lesson on my next question. But what is one leadership lesson you learned the hard way, and how did it shape you?
I was looking at that question, and there are so many things that I could, so many things that decisions that you're like, I wish I would have done this better. And I don't know if there's one specific thing that I can pinpoint, but I also realize, I think for myself, as I've grown in the superintendency, that I'm not alone. I think that when I first started, I wanted to be that person, and I think sometimes you when you're in the superintendency for the first time, realizing that you're the final decision maker, in many ways, can be daunting. And at first, I was like, I don't want any outside help. I want to make sure I'm making the decision, and it's going to all fall on me. And then as I've grown, I've realized that I need a lot more voice, from whether it be our constituents, teachers, staff, to make the right decision. And so getting more consensus instead of being the one and being that last dictator. I would say I was probably, which I don't want to admit, but I probably, when I first started, I was more of a micromanager, dictator, superintendent, and realized that that's not the way that I need to be. I need to be more open, to have more conversation, build more consensus, and it's really, to be honest, helped me grow, and be able to, I think, our district to grow, to have more voice, and to have listen to what people's needs are. And and I always tell people, I'm never going to please everybody, because I still have those people that want $20, and if I give them $20, they're going to be mad that I didn't give them 2 tens. That's just the way it is. And so as a superintendent, you try to to work as hard as you can to do what's best for your community, for your students, and knowing that every decision you make, you're still going to have somebody that doesn't like that decision.
After more than 30 years in education, what continues to inspire and motivate you?
Um, I am very fortunate to have a job that I love to wake up and go to work every day, because I see the students. And like I said, when you go onto a campus and you see the students and what they're doing, and how it impacts our community, and what they're going to be doing. I love going on campus. I always share a story. Just the other day, I was on a campus, and on an elementary, and a student stopped me and said, "Who are you?" And I'm like, I'm the superintendent. And they didn't care that I was superintendent. And they said, "You don't have a visitor's badge." Yeah. And so I was like, they're like, "You need to go to the office and get that visitor's badge." And so, but again, and I was like, that's great that they're confident in that agency that we're trying to build as a district. So those are the things that really, for me, motivate me every day is what our students are doing, what they're going to be doing in the future. And I think that's one of the reasons we get into education is to serve. And I really am just happy to be able to serve our community and serve our students, and watch them grow and provide opportunities for them.
Excellent. So this is my last question. And then if anyone has questions for David Verdugo after my last question, I would love to open it up and hear your questions and your comments. But my last question for you today is, looking ahead, what do you believe will define effective superintendent leadership over the next decade?
I think, again, continue to have a voice in providing everything we can for our students. I think, especially in rural settings, like I said, we are the center of the community in many of our communities, because everybody goes to the Friday night football games and doing all those things. But like I mentioned, the superintendent has changed a great deal from when I first started, and the expectations that are on the role continue to grow. And so I think it's going to be challenging, but I know we have people that will step up to that challenge, and I'm looking forward to joining the retirement race, like Dr. Wyman, and be able to do what I want to do versus being here, but also supporting our community. I think education continues to grow, and I think we need to continue to grow and be innovative on what we're doing with our students, especially in the rural area, because they need opportunities, and as many opportunities as we can provide. And like I mentioned, for our district, whether it be dual enrollment, certifications, job ready, and that's one of the things that we're looking at with our strategic plan. But I'm glad to be a superintendent. I never pictured myself. If you asked me that first question, I would have been happy as a teacher and coach, and then somehow ended up in this seat. But I'm very thankful that I've been able to sit in this seat, and really try to support our community. And I hope that whoever follows me is 10 times better than me. And that's what I tell my board is that. Because I'm entering my last 3-year contract. So I'll be retiring in 2029. And so we've already kind of started that process of, what are we looking for in our future leaders? And I keep telling them, whoever it is, I want them to be a lot better than me. And so hopefully will happen.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Verdugo. At this time, I'd love to open up the floor for questions. So you could, yes, Steve. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Dr. Verdugo. Steve Estatico, current Pima Unified School District Superintendent, former Superior Superintendent,
Yeah.
and coach and whatever. Just a concern, I know you sit on the AIA Executive Board along with Billy Duarte. And
Yes.
our Pima Rough Riders girls team made it to the Final Four of the Copper in-state tournament. However, that eliminated us from the actual 2A state tournament.
Yeah.
That's a concern to myself and everybody here in Pima. So whatever you can do to fight for that, make a change to that, because we really wanted to play in our 2A state championship. So,
Yeah.
and I did bring that up with Mr. Duarte as well. So just thank you for being here. Appreciate it. I also serve on the ARSA executive board. We're so glad to have you. And I know you're a former Hayden Lobo as well. So
Yes. Yeah. Hayden Lobo, CDO Dorado with Dr. Wyman. Yeah. I always have to give Dr. Wyman a hard time because he was one of my high school coaches. Yeah. So that gives you I was just trying to figure out how long I've known Dr. Wyman. It was like 40 years, coming up on 40 years. So that's a long time. But yes, Steve, with the copper, I know they added that, which is, something new. And I think there's going to be some kinks that need to be worked out with how teams go back and forth within their divisions and so forth. So
thank you.
yeah.
Any other questions or comments from our ARSA members? All right. I don't believe I see anyone. So I just want to say thank you so much, Superintendent Verdugo, for sharing your story, your passion, your inspiration. I think that people listening today definitely are able to walk away with ideas to bring to their own district and have learned a lot of leadership qualities that they can take with them as they move forward. So thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. I also want to say thank you to all of our ARSA members for joining us to hear and celebrate Dr. Verdugo. Again, congratulations on your honor of Superintendent of the Year. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. With that, I would like to say goodbye to everyone. We will send out an announcement for the next ARSA Roundtable. Again, thank you for joining us. I really appreciated everyone here, and have a great rest of your day.